Hi there, everyone, and happy Monday to you all. Today, I want to talk about a really important topic: emotionally honest conversations. It's so hard for most of us to have conversations that are honest, that bring the truth to light, and to speak it in a way that is kind and compassionate. Many of the people that I work with struggle to have these conversations, either with a spouse, a sibling, a friend, a coworker, someone they're having an emotional challenge with, but they find it very hard to speak up and tell them how they're feeling in a way that it's important to do so. So, why is it important to have emotionally honest conversations? First of all, we teach people how to treat us. And one of the first ways in which we do this is by creating firm boundaries. If you don't create firm boundaries for yourself, then people are going to walk all over you, perhaps stomp all over you, and then you end up feeling terrible about yourself and the other person. But oftentimes I hear people say, she shouldn't be treating me like this. He shouldn't have spoken to me like that. And I think you need to look inside and see, where am I allowing this? Where am I allowing people to talk to me like this, to treat me like this, to take advantage of me, to push me into a corner, to be aggressive with me? So we need to look inside and see, where are we allowing this behavior to happen? And this is why I think it's so important to know how to have emotionally honest conversations. But the first piece of this topic is 7 reasons why it's so hard to have these conversations with people we love and people that we need to be in relationship with. Hi, Kayla. It's so nice to see you. So number one, the first reason is we don't trust ourselves to stay calm when we're having these conversations, right? We know how to explode. We know how to be emotionally all over the place, or we implode. We keep it all inside. We stuff our feelings. In our head, we are having this conflict and battle saying, he shouldn't have said this. She shouldn't have treated me like that. I hate it when this happens. Why does this happen to me? All of that. We implode or we explode. But we don't always trust ourselves to stay calm in a conversation where we have to be emotionally honest with other people. So that's the first reason. The second reason is nobody enjoys being provoked, right? Nobody enjoys being provoked, and we are afraid to put ourselves in situations where people can trigger our guilt, our hurt, our sadness, our anger. And so we do everything we can to avoid these situations. But just as we have to learn how to drive and how to pay taxes, learning how to have emotionally honest conversations is a necessary life skill. And if we don't learn how to do this, we are constantly going to find ourselves either running away when we need to have a conversation like this, or shutting down, or exploding, because these are the 3 things that we do, right? So the second reason is we don't want to be provoked. The third reason is we don't know how to listen. We've never been taught what it is to listen well. And it's really hard to listen well when someone's telling you something about yourself that's hard to hear. And an emotionally open conversation, honest conversation, requires you to be able to receive some things that are not so easy to listen to about yourself, where you could have done something to somebody or said something to somebody that they didn't like, or that affected them in certain ways that they now want to be honest about, but you find it hard to listen without defending yourself. So number 3, we don't know how to listen. Number 4, we mistakenly believe that keeping the relationship we have is more important than having the conversation and upsetting others. So somehow we tell ourselves that it's more important for us to keep the relationship than to tell the truth. And this may be okay in the short term, but in the long term, it is going to hurt the quality and the authenticity of the relationship you have with the other person. Whether it's a parent, a sibling, a spouse, a partner, a friend, a coworker, anybody. In the short term, you may say, well, I don't want to hurt her feelings by saying this, so I'm just going to not say anything. But this happens once, twice, 4 times, 16 times, and you're going to feel resentful. You're going to feel frustrated that you're not able to speak up and speak your truth. Or you'll feel over a period of time that the other person constantly takes advantage of you. Well, guess what? They're not taking advantage of you. They don't know that you're feeling this way because you're not being emotionally honest with them, right? So sometimes the spiritual lesson in the relationship is to learn to speak up for yourself, to stand in your truth. And if the other person is unable to receive your truth or unable to have a relationship with you because you were honest about something, then maybe it's time for that relationship to dissolve. Relationships are always spiritual assignments. Sometimes when the lesson is learned, or when the person is no longer willing to take being treated in a certain way, then the relationship has to change. And if both people are not willing to change, then the only thing that can happen in this situation is that the relationship must dissolve. Because one person insists on speaking the truth, on being authentic and real, and on letting the other person know that a certain kind of behavior is unacceptable. Think of domestic abuse situations. If the wife who's being beaten finally learns to stand up for herself and say, I'm not going to take this, you have to find another way. This is an emotionally abusive situation. I'm no longer willing to tolerate it. I have too much love and respect for myself. Well, then, the onus is on the partner or husband to change his behavior, to be a more loving man and husband, or to blame the wife for being who she is because he's feeling threatened, and then he will just continue the cycle of emotional abuse in another relationship. But the wife then walks away because she has learned a lesson about self-love and self-respect. So the fifth reason is we don't want to accept that we may have been wrong. Hi, Karen. Nice to see you here. We don't want to accept that we may have been wrong. An emotionally honest conversation requires us not just to speak and tell the other person where they've gone wrong or where they have hurt us, but it requires us to be receptive to receiving information about ourselves that we must then be willing to accept, right? Sometimes you can hear from somebody else that you made them feel less than, or you hurt them, or you said something that was not your place to speak. So we have to be willing to accept that we have been wrong. And if you're not willing to do that, if you feel extremely justified that you are right and the other person is wrong, then you're not going to be willing to have an emotionally honest conversation. So that's reason number 5. We don't want to accept that we may have been wrong. Reason number 6, we only know how to defend when we are attacked. This is what we've been taught. Growing up, we've been taught that we have to be strong and take care of ourselves and be independent. And an essential aspect of that independence is when someone attacks you, stand up and defend yourself. So we've been taught to defend. We don't know any other way. So anytime we feel threatened or we feel like somebody is attacking us, we just stand up and defend. And what happens when we defend? The other person doesn't feel heard. Just like you don't feel heard when you're trying to tell somebody something and they are getting extremely defensive. You don't feel heard and then you just want to quit the conversation. It's the same thing with the other person. They feel the same way. So when we always go to defense, when we feel attacked, we can't have an honest, open conversation. And then finally, reason number 7, we are so often attached to outcomes, right? We say to ourselves, I'll have this conversation with my sister if she apologizes for her behavior. Or I will have this conversation with my friend if it means we can forget about what happened and start over. Well, you only get to control your part of the conversation. meaning you don't get to decide what outcome the other person chooses. The other person may feel, no, you're just not getting what I'm saying, you're not understanding me, I'm not willing to accept, and they may leave in a huff. But that's not in your control. You've got to be open to whatever outcome the other person is choosing for themselves. And again, an apology may not come in the way that you expect it. You may want an apology from a sibling, and yeah, Karen, you're saying agreed. Yeah, this is what happens often, because this is what most people don't understand. A sincere apology has three components, okay? So let's talk about that in a moment. So when we attach to outcome and we want the other person to apologize in the way we want to hear the apology, and that's not happening, we get frustrated, and then we make a decision, I'm never going to be emotionally honest because people don't even apologize. It doesn't feel like an apology. I didn't receive the apology that I deserved. So what are the three components of a sincere apology? The first component is, I am truly sorry. So anytime you're apologizing, say, I am truly sorry. Number two, I shouldn't have spoken to you like that, or I shouldn't have not called you back, or I shouldn't have spoken about you to other friend, whatever that is. So the second component of an apology is you take ownership, you take responsibility. And the third component of a sincere apology is, how can I make it better for you? How can I make it better for you? I'm truly sorry. I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. How can I make it better? So the first piece is you are apologizing. You're offering a sincere apology. The second piece is you are taking responsibility for your part in hurting that other person or invalidating them or making them feel inadequate, whatever that was. And the third piece of the apology is you are making amends, or you're asking, how can I make amends to you for having hurt you? Most often we do not get all three components of an apology. Most often we get, I'm sorry. And that's all we hear. And it doesn't feel like an apology 8 times out of 10, right? So we feel a little deflated. I made this, I decided to have the conversation. I decided to be emotionally open and available, but my sister or my friend just said, I'm sorry, and it didn't even feel like an apology. So when you use these three components of an apology, then you're doing it right. And you can do this to other people and teach them through your demonstration what it is to apologize sincerely. So let's just recap. What are the 7 reasons why it's hard to have emotionally honest conversations? Number 1, we don't trust ourselves to stay calm in a conversation. We either implode or explode. Number 2, we don't like being provoked, and being part of an emotionally open and honest conversation allows or creates opportunities for us to be provoked. It means being open to what the other person is saying. Number 3, we don't know how to listen. And oftentimes we don't know how to listen because we don't want the other person to say some things that we find hard to hear about ourselves. Number 4, we believe that keeping the relationship is far more important than telling the truth. Number 5, we don't want to accept that we may have been wrong. Number 6, we only know how to defend when we are attacked, and we don't know how to use nonviolent communication. We don't know how to use compassionate, kind words, and so we just go to defense, and that's not very useful. And number 7, we are attached to outcomes. We want the apology in the way that we want it, or we want the relationship to progress in the way that we want it to progress beyond that. And we don't have control over that because there are 2 people who are having the conversation. You get to control your side of this, but the other person is free to make their choice. And most of us want the outcome that we are attached to, and when we don't get the outcome that we are attached to, or when we are fearful that we won't get the outcome we are attached to, we'd rather not have the conversation. So these are the 7 reasons why it's hard for many people to sit across the table and have an honest conversation with someone they love. Next week, I'm going to do a follow-up to this article, not this article, this live, which will give you some ideas on how to have these conversations in a way that helps you and the other person. So we need to learn these skills about how to speak honestly and communicate our intention with love, kindness, and compassion. So that's coming next week. Watch out for that Facebook Live. And if you have any questions about anything that I've said, please post them below the video and I will respond to you. Thank you for watching. Hi, Beverly. Nice to see you. Thank you all for watching live, and also to everyone who caught the replay. So I'll be back next week. Make sure you like my Facebook page, because then every time I go live, you'll get an alert and you'll be able to watch these videos. Thank you. Bye.